1971, Richard Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard. This would change the course of economic trajectory for the United States for decades to come, even to the present day. Many people use money in their everyday lives, whether that be paying rent or utilities, buying food or fuel, or just going out and having fun. However, very few people really know how currency works outside of earning and spending. For the last few weeks, I've researched the history of currency and what a time looked like before currency and what the future could hold. So today, I'm here to tell you about those things. And to start off, let's talk about a time before currency. That way we can establish the theme. So, before currency, people mainly relied on a bartering system, which is essentially trading goods for other goods. This would be like trading stone tools for bushels of wheat. This worked really well on local economies when you only had a couple hundred people, because you didn't have to travel far with these finished goods. You could just, go to your neighbor trade. However, as humanity began to develop and groups of people grew larger and larger and civilizations started to form, people stopped wanting to lug around all these stone tools just to trade with their neighbor. Now, to solve that, they came up with commodity money. Commodity money, as Andrew Beatty put it, works as a medium of exchange between people. It's essentially the idea that either it has intrinsic value or it can be exchanged later for goods. Now, it comes in different forms throughout different civilizations throughout history. It could be seashells, animal hides, even some people had giant rocks, but most of the time it came in the form of coinage and dollars. Now, the earliest example we have of commodity money in the form of coins would be the spade coin from China from around 650 BCE, found at a minting facility. This is what it would look like, as you can see, very fashionable. And it would spread later to the west in about 50 years later at 600 BCE. In 600 BCE, the Kingdom of Lydia, under King Attales, would mint these Lydian coins, as they're called, which were made out of electrum. Now, as you can see, they have specific facing, which represents denominations, which shows that it was less of an intrinsic trade and more about the representative value, which is very big and leads us to our next thing. As economies grew, they began to face the problem of physical backing for currency. That they wanted to grow larger, especially with the Industrial Revolution, but sometimes the physical wealth just wasn't there to back this currency. So with that came fiat currency. Fiat currency is off the same principles as commodity money. However, it has less intrinsic value and more representative value. Since 1971, with the US dollar getting off the gold standard, it has essentially been a fiat currency. Now, fiat currencies are great because it allows for quick economic growth and development rapidly without necessarily having physical backing. However, in 2008, the world would see a global recession, which would see people lose their houses and jobs, and this would wake up a lot of people of the dangers of fiat currency and make people yearn for something different. And one of those people would be Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto would go on to find Bitcoin in 2009. This is currently where currency stands, with blockchain technology and able to having to solve equations and limiting how money is produced back to sort of the commodity money of old. This has a lot of people interested, with researchers such as Pingqing Wang and Xingfeng Bao saying that a lot of investment savvy people are starting to get into it. However, a big downside is it tends to be younger people below the 34 age group. About 18 to 34 is the sweet spot, but anything above 44 you start to see a disassociation with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So with that, that's currently where currency stands. It's important to think about when you're spending your money about how this currency came to be and what it could look like for you, because money, whether we like it or not, dominates the world that we live in, and we have to be able to think and use it properly. With that, goodbye.